everyone, and welcome to our CESI Talks, Just Transitions, a series of conversations with experts and policymakers on the topic of transitions and what is changing in the world of work today. Today, we're very pleased to have Mr. Diederik Samsom, Head of Cabinet of EVP Frans Timmermans at the European Commission, and we also have our Secretary General of CESI, Mr. Klaus Heeger. So let's start right away with a statement and a question to the both of you. Renewable energy releases us from dependence. That's why renewable energy is the energy of freedom. So, Mr. Samsom, I'll give the floor to you first. So, do you think that the EU should accelerate its green transitions to lower its dependency on Russia and become more autonomous?
In short, yes. It's the only way to become more autonomous. We already are embarking on a journey towards more autonomy because of Fit for 55 and the package we have proposed last year, which brings us a lot of more renewables and energy savings. But we should increase, accelerate, and supercharge those proposals in order to become independent from Russian fossil fuels.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Mr. Heeger, what do you think about this topic?
Yeah, I share Mr. Samsom's views here. Acceleration is always good. And as we know, as I've been saying repeatedly, there are now new jobs on new planets. So we know that the digital transition is happening, and we know that the green transition must happen. But of course, as trade unions, we also have to consider the socio-economic impacts of such, what it could mean, what such acceleration could mean. And for instance, we know that oil and coal have no future, and the era of combustion vehicles, for instance, is slowly coming to an end. This is already a huge challenge, but decarbonizing energy-intensive industries, and Sara, you know what I'm talking about, is even more complicated. And added to this, of course, the war with food and fuel supply shortages and the increasing prices. What I'm saying is we must consider the social economic impacts. We must consider the sustainability of the economy and the society, and we must consider, of course, also the expected employment impacts. And it has been said recently by some of the trade unions in Germany, it doesn't help anyone if the lights go out here. It doesn't help us, it doesn't help Ukraine. So these decisions must be carefully balanced and measured. But to desperately, and here I'm joining again Mr. Samsom, find new providers of fossil fuels is appears somewhat absurd in this very moment. So yes, it should be, an acceleration must take place.
Thank you, Mr. Heeger. And as you were saying, especially us as social partners, us as a trade union, we need to analyze what are the impacts both in the short run, but also in the long run. So I would like to ask Mr. Samsom, what will be the benefits of the green transition and particularly the Green Deal for citizens?
A healthier society and a livable planet for our children and grandchildren. And that's not a small thing to strive for. But obviously, people working and living right now also are looking at benefits of the Green Deal. At the moment, coal-fired power stations produce polluting electricity for about 5 cents per kilowatt hour. Solar energy in half of Europe, the southern half obviously, produces energy at a price of less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour. At the moment, renewable energy is cheaper than fossil fueled energy. So it will also bring us cheaper energy. The question is, and the challenge is, and that's a challenge for unions and the rest of society alike, how to make that transition. Because in the end point might be very attractive for everyone, the transition is going to be a challenge, notably for the ones that already struggle to make ends meet, that already struggle to keep their job. And this is what is the biggest challenge in this journey towards a sustainable society.
Thank you, Mr. Samsom. Mr. Heeger, what do you think are the risks of green transition for the world of work, and how can we ensure that our labor market will be not hit?
Well, we all know, I think, that jobs will be lost in carbon-intensive sectors. We will face deindustrialization or desertification in certain regions, maybe in certain sectors. And we know that where jobs will be lost and not necessarily new ones will be created. And if new ones are created, these will not necessarily be quality jobs. So yes, labor markets will be hit. In fact, if we speak of necessary transitions, as I said, there must be transitions. They also must be hit. And I think for us trade unions, it will be extremely challenging because we must first, I think, be aware of the impacts, which seems very easy, but I think when you look at the details, it might be very difficult. That means also we have to deal with multiple policy fields and really have some kind of mapping also which sectors and which areas will be particular, or which regions will be particularly hit. And then we will have, of course, deal with the consequences of these transitions. And as I repeatedly said also, we might have to make sure that sustainable economies, industries, sectors, and regions remain competitive. We will have to make sure that as many sustainable jobs will be kept and preserved. We must make sure that as many quality jobs as possible will be preserved, and we must make sure that unsustainable jobs are basically transformed into sustainable ones, and also assist the workers, meaning skilling and upskilling in these transition processes. So as trade unions, I think, or as workers, we have to co-shape these processes, these transitions. We have to co-design them, we have to influence them. And for this, I mean, there's one clear formula. This is, we have to be informed, consulted, heard, and at the heart of the transitions. And if we speak of transitions, now this is more about the process. When it comes to the tools, I think also we need some kind of just transition governance framework that has been called like this also, I think, by the European institutions, in order to map really which sectors, which areas, which regions will be particularly hit. And I think finally we will also need strong investments in public services, in public infrastructure.
Absolutely, as it is clear to see that a healthy, a sustainable world is both an individual and collective responsibility that we need to take on. And I wanted to ask one last question to Mr. Samsom, a message to the members of CESI. How can workers and citizens get involved in the ambitious plans of the EU towards a greener planet?
Well, actually, my more optimistic message would be you are involved already, because it's not politicians that drive change in the end. It's politicians that respond to the demands of society as it ought to be in a democracy. And we are not a perfect democracy, but somewhat getting closer. And indeed, in Europe, what we see happening is that citizens demand this change. And also workers demand this change, because as obviously was said, workers demand high quality jobs. And there are more high quality jobs in a sustainable economy than in an unsustainable economy. That's clear. Every assessment shows us that is the future that we want to go for. And obviously workers are smart people, and they feel that this change is there. That's not to say that there's no challenges. As outlined, there will be winners and losers in every transition. We need to take care that the sectors that will struggle will receive help to make the transition happen. If we take care of that all together, we're going to have a very bright future.
Absolutely. As you both said, there will be challenges ahead, but if we talk as we're doing right now, if we keep the conversations up, we're going to be able to face the challenges and to protect those who need to be protected, and to maximize all of the benefits that we can get from striving for a better future. Thank you both for these conversations, and we hope to see you again.
Bye-bye. Thank you.